Thanks to those of you that took to Twitter and tweeted me your questions for this Tuesday sports Q&A. I'm not going to bother breaking it up. I'm not even preparing it ahead of time. I'm just going to literally read the questions right off of Twitter. So let's see how smooth or brutally this ends up going. Let's get started, though. Omer H82. Should the Raiders' record at the end of the year really decide if Carr is a franchise QB, given that he has no great weapons? I get what you're getting at, and I understand it. Here's my deal, though. If you go and win 1 or 2 games and you end up with the #1 overall pick, is Derek Carr really a franchise quarterback? Knowing that that type of record would mean that not only will Sperano be gone, which I assume he would be anyways, and that the general manager, Reggie McKenzie, would also be gone, it means that your team sucks badly and that you would be going in yet another new direction. Would a new coach and general manager, regardless of what the owner, Mark Davis, wants, would the new coach and general manager really want to tie themselves to a second-round pick quarterback from the previous year from a previously failed regime? Would you do that? I know I most certainly wouldn't, especially if I viewed somebody like Marcus Mariota to be that type of franchise player, to be that type of star. And again, I do think in this case, you can look at the team record a little bit and look at the situation of the Oakland Raiders, and you can make that determination that if you win 1 or 2 games, similar like the Panthers did in 2010, and Cam Newton's there in 2011, you got to take him. Doesn't matter if you spend a second-round pick on Clausen. Same thing here. Spend a second-round pick on Derek Carr, so fucking what? That's, again, from a previously failed regime. Can you really sit there and say to yourself as a Raiders fan, or if you were in charge of the Raiders organization, that you would want to tie your future, your career to Derek Carr? No, I want to roll with my guys. I'm just saying. So while it doesn't seem fair, that is the reality. UF Gator Chomp 93. What is your favorite and least favorite NFL commentary team to listen to and why? I'd like to say Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are the worst. But that's more so because I just don't like Joe Buck. I don't think Troy Aikman is as good as he was in recent years. The worst commentary team to me, though, is just in general, everybody associated with Sunday Night Football, they're just bad. Their pregame and halftime studio show is just boring. And then having to listen to Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth call games is like watching paint dry. It's that bad. It's just terrible. My favorite commentary teams for the NFL, one I like is Burkhardt and John Lynch for Fox. I think John Lynch is really good, and I think Burkhardt's a good quality play-by-play guy. I've always liked the team for years when they would do Moose Johnston and Dick Stockton and Tony Siragusa. I always liked the dynamics. I always thought they had something good there. And I always thought in a lot of ways that should have been the primary commentary team for Fox, not Buck and Aikman. That's just me. Then you also asked my initial reaction to the Bears taking Grossman 22nd overall in 2003. I was pissed off. I didn't expect much from him as a pro. I thought he was too small, more so didn't have it here to be able to play quarterback, and I was validated. What are some other more overrated college football schools in your opinion of recent times other than Michigan? That's his other question. And I got to tell you, one that stands out to me is Clemson. Every year it seems like they're really high in the ratings, and every time they are in the rankings, and every time they play their first real big-name opponent, they get their asses kicked, and they lose, and then you don't hear much from them. I think Clemson is an incredibly overrated college football program. To a certain degree, I think Oklahoma is. They've gotten a lot of benefits from the bull crap system over the years, and the fact of the matter is, with all the top recruits they've gotten and all of this and all of that and all the advantages they've gotten over the years, they still only won one national title under Bob Stoops. So there you go. Let's see here. Rye Guy 096. Half PPR League Shot. Pick up either Jerick McKinnon, Jared Cook, or Cecil Shorts. I'd go with McKinnon. It looks like the Vikings have finally realized that McKinnon is the more explosive and dynamic player. So he's going to catch some passes out of the backfield, and he looks like he's going to get more opportunities on the ground. That's the guy right there. Again, because a running back compared to a wide receiver, I'm going to go with that featured running back every time compared to another team's like number 2 or number 3 option in the passing game, because that running back can impact your fantasy box score in multiple ways, both on the ground and through the air. And then he also has Reggie Wayne, Andre Johnson, Reggie Bush, Crabtree, Josh Gordon, Ryan Matthews, or Larry Donnell. I'm not really sure, honestly, what you're asking. Are you asking me who you should start? I'm trying to look at your thing here, and you've got Donnell in the starting lineup. I'm assuming this must be for next week. You need to follow up with me on Twitter and let me know more of what you're trying to get at. Let's see here. Matt Meffe2, do you follow the philosophy that players shouldn't win an MVP award because they play for a bad team? I hate it. Yeah, I kind of do. Because if they were so valuable, why does their team suck so bad? I mean, unless it's one of those things where they were so clearly statistically superior to anybody else, like when Andre Dawson won the MVP on a last place Cubs team in '87. I know they gave it to A-Rod in the 2000s on a last place Texans team. In general, though, I don't think you could be that valuable if you're on a last place team or on a really bad team. I really don't, because if you were that valuable, your team would win more games. Just saying. T-Bar 121. 2 wide receivers in a flex. I've got Andre Johnson, Wes Welker, Brandon Lavelle, Shane Vereen, Mark Ingram, and Lamar Miller. 2 wide receivers in a flex. So you've probably got to go with Andre Johnson and then Brandon LaFell. And then unfortunately for you, you've got to choose between Vereen, Ingram, and Miller. I would drop out Vereen Ingram for sure. I probably would go with Lamar Miller, although Vereen has some appeal as well. That's interesting, but I would take Ingram out for the time being. Edsel 4, is LeBron James the Peyton Manning of the NBA? Oh, to a degree, yes. There's a lot of similarities there in terms of media treatment, in terms of career arcs, but LeBron does have one more ring. Just saying. It's Peaches 95. Just traded Andrew Luck and Rashard Jennings for Russell Wilson and DeMarco Murray. How did I do? Pretty damn good. Pretty damn good, I think. Because, to me, here's the way I look at it, is if Russell Wilson doesn't produce for you that well, the next few weeks after making that deal, there's usually going to be a quarterback or two on the waiver wire that might be able to outscore the quarterback that you have. But getting the top running back in the NFL this year in DeMarco Murray, you can't find that type of guy on the waiver wire. You're much more likely to find a quarterback that in a pinch or in a short stretch of time could perform like Andrew Luck does in a fantasy standpoint than you could, let's say, a DeMarco Murray. So I think you made a really good deal. This is an example of where I think you did well for yourself, especially because, Russell Wilson's still a quarterback that could score in multiple ways, and DeMarco Murray is going to score more than Rashard Jennings. Marvelous Marc Johnson67 asks, well, I guess I play you this week in your fantasy league, eh? Yes, sir, and you better get that Viking horn ready, because I'm going to whoop your ass. Understand that. Slider 15 asks, what are your thoughts on West Virginia wide receiver Kevin White and quarterback Clint Trickett based on 2014? Really haven't paid that much attention to Trickett when I've watched Kevin White. I've seen him make some really nice throws, but he hasn't really stood out to me. Kevin White, on the other hand, I think at this point in time, as it currently sits, is my number 2 wide receiver on the board, but a lot of work and research that could go into that. So in the next few months, he could drop down a few slots. He might end up being my number 1 wide receiver prospect. I really like him. He's got size. I think he uses his body well. He has decent hands. He has decent speed. He always seems to have the ability to get separation. I really am a fan of Kevin White. A Viking fan for life. Quarterback Stafford, wide receiver Thomas Marshall Sanders, running back Tate Bradshaw, tight end Cameron, flex Stacy, defense Indian Carolina. Weaknesses, players to go after. You'd have to let me know, Viking fan for life, what's available on your waiver wire and who you've got on your bench. It looks like you have a relatively solid team, although I'm not a huge fan of having 2 wide receivers from the same team in your lineup. I think Ben Tate will continue to put up some nice numbers. Ahmad Bradshaw, put up solid numbers. Cameron, I think, will get better as the season goes along. Maybe you have a little bit of a weakness at defense, but not terrible. But again, I need to know who you've got on your bench. I need to know who in your league is available on the waiver wire, because I don't just want to give you random freaking advice that doesn't apply because all those people are picked up or you already have them, if you get what I'm saying. So hit me back up on Twitter. Let me know what's available. Maybe take a screenshot or something like that to let me know. Right Wielder 259. Who do you think is most responsible for the way this season is going for the St. Louis Rams? I think both Les Snead and Jeff Fisher. Ultimately, Their issues run deeper than quarterback. I don't think Austin Davis has been that bad. I really don't. But Jeff Fisher is supposed to be a defensive guy, and his defenses, frankly, haven't played that well. All the high picks that they accumulated from the RG3 trade, and what have they really done with them? What have they really turned them into? And the fact that they were idiotically ready to ride into another season with Sam Bradford as their starting quarterback. Imagine if you don't ride into the season, or the preseason even, with Sam Bradford as your starting quarterback, and you would have brought in a quarterback and given him the opportunity, given him that time review to said to Austin Davis, here, you get all this extra preparation time. Imagine how much better off the Rams would be. I think both Les Snead and Jeff Fisher deserve a lot of the responsibility and blame for this, and they should be a bit on the hot seat right now with a 1-4 start. And Tommy X54 closes out this Q&A by asking, is Tom Brady capable of winning another Super Bowl? I don't know if he's capable of doing it in a way where he could win some big, huge shootout. I don't know if the supporting cast around him is good enough at this point in time to win a Super Bowl. If there was a season where they were going to still do it with Tom Brady there, I think it would have to be this year, but I'm not convinced that they're good enough to do so. They look to me an awful lot like a lot of these Belichick-Brady teams over the years, teams that are pretty good, do well in the regular season, make it to the AFC Championship game or a little bit before that, and then they find a way to lose in the playoffs to a team that's either smarter than them, more physical than them, more athletic than them, whatever the case might be. So thanks to you guys again that submitted your questions for this Q&A. I'll be back Thursday with another Q&A. Stay tuned. There will be other videos on this channel all week long. Yippee!